In this session, we'll discuss about a Java program to find out the maximum number in the given three numbers. Given three numbers. Let us take this number as number 1, number 2, number 3 because they did not mention any data type. So I'm taking number 1 can be byte, short, int, long, float or double. So the same thing with number 2 and same thing with number 3. They could be of any data type. So but for time being, I'm taking the number 1 to be integer, number 2 to be float and number 3 to be double.
Let us look at the algorithm. We'll understand that there are three numbers which you have taken, number 1, then number 2, and then number 3. As we understood, these three are the three different data types. One thing what I have taken is, this one I have taken it as an integer, this one I have taken it to be a float, and this one I have taken it to be a double. Now, what is the algorithm? So first, let us understand step by step. First, what we need to do is, first, we'll compare the number 1 with the number 2 and then same number 1 to number 3. So the algorithm, first what we need to do is, first we need to take input from the keyboard and assign them to number 1, number 2 and then number 3. So let us take these three variables as number 1 and then number 2 and number 3. So these three we assign. And then the second step that what we have is, so now we need to compare if the number 1 is greater than number 2 and number 1 is greater than number 3, then we can say number 1 is greater. So otherwise, the number 2 or number 3, any one of these will be greater. So we compare number 2 with number 3. We'll check if number 2 is greater than number 3, then we'll say number 2 is greater. Otherwise, if this condition also fails, then we'll say number 3 is greater. So this is what the algorithm is all about. So now how we are going to write this? So now here, so we will see that first number 1, then we'll say the number 2, then we need to compile, so we use a double ampersand symbol. It will say number 1 is also greater than number 3. So this logic we need to write within the if block, so as we know. So then once this is true, then we can say that system.out.println, then we'll say number 1 is greater. Otherwise, we'll compare again, else if number 2 is greater than number 3, then we can say SOP number 2 is greater. And if this condition also false, we write else, we display SOP saying that number 3 is greater. So this is what we are going to implement. Now let us write the code. So I open my Eclipse now. So within this package com.jc.basics, now I'm going to create a new Java class to demonstrate. So I'm just taking it as comparing three numbers or highest in three numbers. So let me take highest three numbers. Then I'm taking my main method. So here now first, so most of the programming questions, they ask you to take the input from the keyboard. So there are different ways of taking input from the keyboard. So here we are taking use of scanner class, which is there in java.util package. So I'm just creating a reference, scanner is equal to new scanner, where we need to enter system.in. So once we have taken this, we need to import this because it belongs to java.util.scanner. So a very important note here, so when you are writing the coding questions, in most of the interviews, they'll ask you to write the coding on a piece of paper. So at the time when you have written the scanner statement, make sure that you have written the import statement too. So because if you don't import, this is not going to work. So the interviewers will also check whether you have imported this particular scanner class or not. So the scanner class is helpful for us to take the input from the keyboard. So now here I'm just going to write system.out.println saying that enter number 1. So this number 1, I'm taking it as an integer as per our algorithm. So in a scanner class, we have a method to take integer that is called nextInt. So then similarly, I'm going to write the same set of statements for entering number 2. Then I'm taking it as a float. So I'll take number float is equal to number 2. Then I'll take scanner dot next float. Then I'm taking the third input saying for number 3, then here I'll say it to be double number 3 is equal to scanner dot next double. So now here our algorithm goes. Now we'll say if number 1 is greater than number 2 and logical and number 1 greater than number 3. Then if this both of these conditions are true, then I'm going to say that number 1 plus is greater. Else I'm going to compare between number 2 and greater than number 3. So here I'm going to say system.out.println. If this condition is true, then I'm going to say number 2 is greater. If this condition false, then definitely system.out.println number 3 is greater. So this is what our logic is all about. So here, because we have only one statement, we are printing within if condition, these braces are optional. So you can take or you cannot take, because when you have more than one statement, then only we can take. So if you want to simplify without using braces, then simply we are writing our if condition is like this with system.out.println and then else if with system.out.println. So make sure when you're writing this logic, this you have to take when you have only single set of statement in if block and as well as else if block. So now let me compare and then let me run the program. So when I run the program in the console, first it will ask me to enter number 1, then I'm entering 100 because I'm taking the number 1 as integer. Second, number 2, which is a float, I'm taking 123.45, and third, enter number 3, which is I'm expected to take it as a double. So I'm just passing it 145 or some 135.56. So then according to my logic, it says that 1235.56 is greater. Let me run with another input saying that I'm giving integer as a highest and then float as lowest 350.5 and third as a double 123.45. Then it says 1000 is greater. And let me run it for the third iteration saying that this time I'll give number 2 as a highest, which I'll give 1000.5, and enter number 3 has 5450. Then it says that 1000.5 is greater. And make sure when you're writing a logic, it should work for all the test cases which have been prepared by the interviewer.